Yo, what's up, chefs? Happy league start. I just killed Doriani and completed Act 3 on my Amazon Huntress, and despite the fact that overwhelmingly my chat during the stream today seemed to think that Huntress was severely underpowered, my build actually feels really good right now, especially considering it's a league start character and I've done zero trading. Not to mention, the mobility of this class, or the spear weapon, is actually disgusting. I mean, it's not Temporalis levels of disgusting, but I imagine it's got to be one of the closest things to it at this point, and it requires zero investment. All you need is to just get Thunderous Leap. Like I said, a bunch of the viewers in my stream were quite interested in the build I was playing, and were also very confused on how I was even beginning to do damage to bosses, let alone actually killing them quite quickly. So I decided to go and create a build guide really quick. This isn't going to be super in-depth because I am only just getting done with Act 3. Probably tomorrow I will, obviously get through the rest of the campaign and I'll make an updated leveling guide video that'll be a little bit more in-depth. But if I'm being honest, I don't think the build is actually going to change that much between now and once I'm done with Act 3 Cruel. I'll probably get 2 more Ascendancy points either right before I finish the campaign or right after. Outside of that, obviously I'm going to be making additions to my passive tree, but most of my skills I expect to stay pretty much the same. I might change out something for Spear of Solaris, but currently all of my skill slots are filled, and I can't really see myself giving up any of them. So I'm going to have to figure that out as we go along, because I do actually need to fit in another spirit skill now that I think about it. But I don't think I'm going to make that many changes to the build at this point for the rest of the campaign, because it does feel really, really solid. So I did end up making a Maxroll planner for this. You can find the link to it in the description. This is going to assume that you're starting off with your first character as a Huntress. If you do happen to have extra support gems, just click over to the next page and you can figure out what you should use in advance. But this is going to cover your skills from the very beginning of the game into Geonor, the first boss, Act 2, and then all of Act 3 up until the point where I'm at. This is a direct import of my character's current gear. You'll be able to see that none of it is super crazy. I did happen to get lucky and get a really nice pair of gloves, and my spear is pretty decent as well, but most of my other stuff is pretty dog meat, not good, just random stuff I've been picking up from the vendors or on the ground. And of course, we've got the passive tree as well. I've also got rotational notes put up down here in the notes section. I'm going to go over the rotation a little bit later, but for starters, I'm going to start off with the Ascendancy nodes because I usually forget these in my other videos, so I reckon I can't forget them if I just start off with them first. So first thing I'm going to say here is I started with Elemental Infusion based on the reveal and what we saw before the league went live. Elemental Infusion looked like it was going to be really good, but long story short, it got nerfed super hard. At level 20 in the reveal, it said it was going to be doing 612% of your attack damage. At level 10 today, when I was using it, it was doing 99% of my attack damage. It was absolutely terrible. My lightning spear had a DPS of 1800 or something, and my infused weapon had 250. So it's pretty negligible. It basically did nothing. I didn't notice it at all whenever I got it. So I ended up swapping over to Critical Strike. I didn't think this was going to be that great, and to be perfectly honest, the tooltip in game is still a bit odd to me. These numbers have no correlation to these numbers when you think of it in a 25% aspect. 25% of your excess chance to hit with attacks is gained as additional crit chance, and 25% of 25 would be 6.25. So I don't know where the 6.6 to 33 is coming from. But if it was 6.25, I'd have about 15% crit chance, and it feels like it's a lot more than that. I don't know why. I don't know if it is actually a lot more than that, but as soon as I took this node, I noticed a significant improvement to my DPS, my clear speed, my bossing, everything. So long story short, don't go Elemental Infusion. It got nerfed into the ground. I would recommend going Critical Strike first or Predatory Instinct, and whichever one you go first, just go the other one second. In a perfect world, if you had a really good weapon already, you could go Penetrate, but the chances that you have a really good weapon right now are pretty slim. I can't get one. There's no weapons on the market at my level. And yeah, so there's nothing else that really makes sense. These two nodes, but with that being said, these two nodes are good. As soon as you use them, you will notice the difference. Predatory Instinct is 20% more damage basically to bosses because of how much of their health pool is considered an open weakness. So this is pretty strong. It's a pretty balanced node. And yeah, they both feel really, really good. Next, I'm going to go and go over the skills. So starting off at the very beginning in the tutorial zone with the big brute guy or whatever, you're going to get Whirling Slash. This is a decent skill early on in the game. You stack it up to stage 3 and then dash out of it, and you pretty much one-shot like packs of zombies and stuff. So it is pretty good. I'd recommend using this to clear at the beginning until you get Lightning Spear. Outside of that, once you get to Renly in the town, so the first time you get to the town, it gives you a skill gem. You're going to pick up Explosive Spear. After that, in Clearfell, from the little camp, like the hidden camp with the chest that gives you a skill gem, you're going to pick up Frost Bomb. Then you're going to go do Beira, the Witch, get your cold resistance. Then you're going to go do the Devourer, the Mudworm or whatever. From him, you're going to pick up Disengage, because he's going to drop you a level 2 skill gem. Then you go back to town, you get a support gem from Renly. I'd recommend you get Overabundance on Explosive Spear. You're going to go to the Grellwood. Once you're in the Grellwood, you're going to get another support gem if you kill the Witch there for the 2 flasks. You also get a support gem from the Witch. And I would recommend putting in Martial Tempo to Whirling Slash, which will eventually get transferred over to your Lightning Spear once you can get it. The priority for your support gems are going to be down here. I do have them set up. I would recommend going in this order because assuming you don't have any excess support gems. But ultimately, once you get access to it, you're going to grab Lightning Spear. And then at that point, your clear is basically just going to be, like before you have Lightning Spear, you'll be using Whirling Slash and Explosive Spear to clear mobs. For bosses, you'll just be doing Explosive Spear, Frost Bomb, and using like the default Spear Stab attack. In addition to that, I'll really quickly touch on Disengage. So I think going into things, everybody thought parry was going to be probably not that good. It didn't seem like it was going to fit in within POE 2 that well. However, in the early game, like my character now is at the point where I don't use parry at all. It doesn't really provide me much value. But in the early game, I actually think parry and Disengage feels surprisingly good. And it's because Disengage does a ton of damage. Like if you parry, Disengage a pack of mobs, you can usually just clear them with Disengage by itself. But outside of that, Lightning Spear with the Frenzy charges is actually very, very good. And eventually, once you get Barrage, you can do a little pack clearing combo where you Barrage, parry, Disengage, and then Lightning Spear. And all 3 of the Lightning Spears that come out of the Barrage will all get the Frenzy charge bonus. So you shoot like 10 spears at once, and it just clears multiple packs. So that feels pretty good. The only problem with Disengage, and probably the only reason that I'm not using it at all anymore, is it's like targeting on the parry debuffs kind of sucks. It's very common to successfully parry and then you disengage, but the disengage misses the parried target, so you don't get the frenzy charge, and then the parried debuff falls off before your disengage comes back off cooldown, and it's just an annoying little process there. But in the early game, disengage and parry is actually really good, especially against bosses that just sit there and smack you. You can just disengage, parry spam them, and then follow that up with like Explosive Spear or whatever, and it's free damage. Moving on to Act 2, and at this point, or moving on to Geonor in Act 2, I should say, because Geonor is like, things start to change a little bit for that boss, and I'm going to be honest, Geonor is kind of difficult for this build, but for Lightning Spear at this point, you're going to have Martial Tempo and Innervate ideally. You're going to move on to Stormlance. You're going to swap Concentrated Effect out of your Explosive Spear into Stormlance, and you're also going to pick up Retreat. The important part here with Retreat, this is a new support gem. You just have to make sure that you're occasionally landing a melee hit on the boss. This is pretty easy with Disengage, but it becomes even easier later on once you get Thunderous Leap. And this support gem actually just works super well in my opinion, and I think it fits in Stormlance very, very nicely. For Explosive Spear, now we're going to be running Overabundance still, but we're also going to be running Expedite. Supported skills have 40% less detonation time. This is actually what makes Explosive Spear feel really good for clearing, like during just regular zones, not including bosses, because you can run in between packs, drop, like, let's say there's 2 packs in front of you. On each pack, you drop an Explosive Spear and a Stormlance, and then you just, like, disengage, Thunderous Leap away, and both the packs die. If you need to, you can throw a Lightning Spear here and there, but you don't actually end up doing it that often, to be honest. Like, your Explosive Spear and Stormlance covers most things. After that, you're eventually going to pick up Sniper's Mark. when you have the support gems to do so, you should socket Profusion and Inspiration because you're going to be using Sniper's Mark pretty often in boss fights. I would say I talk about this more in the notes, and I'll probably talk about it more in just a little bit, but long story short, pretty much every time you go for like a triple Stormlance combo, I think it's worth using Sniper's Mark. And you should maybe even use it more than that, but as a minimum, or at a minimum, you should probably be using it every time you do a Stormlance combo, which I'll get into the Stormlance combo here in a little bit. Up next, we have Barrage. This is a returning skill, but now it works for spears. Basically, you press the button, and then you press your next skill, and it's like, it seems complicated when you read it, but literally you just press Barrage, and then if you were to press Lightning Spear right after it, it'll throw 3 Lightning Spears. If you press Barrage and then Stormlance, it's going to throw 3 Stormlances. The added stuff here is that each of the individual projectiles that you throw are going to do 50% less damage, so it's going to result in being like 150% damage instead of 300%, but it's still very strong, and especially whenever you take the support gem Premeditation that gives them 15% more damage. This is going to be, even better. And now it's going to be like 195% damage. And then finally, for your first spirit skill, I'm going to recommend getting Herald of Thunder. And the only things I socketed in here were Lightning Infusion and Magnified Effect. Lightning Infusion for me isn't actually doing too much because I have a decent amount of fire damage and cold damage and like other element damage on my gear. So it's kind of like offsetting the DPS increase from the lightning, and it's like basically coming out even. But if you don't have a bunch of extra elemental damage on your gear, Lightning Infusion would definitely be a good choice. And lastly, for Act 3, here is going to be all of the skill gems. Finally, this is the exact replica of what I currently have. I'm not going to go over all of them because a lot of them are still the same, but for Stormlance, we are adding on Primal Armament. For Disengage, now that you have access to level 2 support gems, same thing for Primal Armament, but now for Disengage, you should get Ingenuity to reduce the cooldown. For Barrage, you can get Twofold. This is another level 2 support gem. You're also going to be getting Thunderous Leap once you have access to level 9 skill gems, which is going to be right around the end of Act 2 or like beginning-ish of Act 3. I can't remember exactly when, but as soon as you can, get Thunderous Leap. This skill is so good. And when you get the chance, you should socket Pursuit and Fist of War. And then eventually, once you get your additional 30 spirit for 60 total, you can take Wind Dancer. If you want, you can go Combat Frenzy, but I don't actually think Combat Frenzy is like as valuable as it would have seemed whenever Elemental Infusion looked like it was going to be really good. At this point, I don't really get much benefit from the charges in boss fights. The difference between having my Explosive Spear detonate instantly and leave burning ground, or my Stormlance detonate instantly and leave like shocked ground, isn't really that big of a difference right now. In the future, it may be, because we might want to make our Stormlance electrocute, so having the shocked ground would still apply shock, but currently, I don't think you need the frenzy charges that bad, so the Wind Dancer for extra defense feels great. And I do have a little bit of extra spirit from my Solar Amulet, so I socketed Precision just to further scale my critical strike buff. And then for your parry, I'm going to recommend you put Unbreakable and Steadfast. And Unbreakable, I think, is actually really important if you are trying to parry. If you don't have Unbreakable, you're going to get heavy stunned like permanently on cooldown, and you're going to die because the heavy stun is 3 seconds now. I died probably 10 plus times just getting heavy stunned by like literally getting hit once by like a magic or a rare monster. I get heavy stunned and I die. But you put on Unbreakable and you're pretty much good to go. Next up is the items, and I'm not really going to go over these too much because we are in a league start position, so you really have to work with what you have. But what I will say is for your spear, you should be looking for increased physical damage and then flat damage where you can get it, so either flat elemental or flat physical. And then increased attack speed is nice, and then once you have the critical strike node, getting accuracy is nice, but like you're only going to be able to get so much right now in the campaign. Outside of that, you should be looking to get as much flat damage as possible, so that's going to be from your rings and gloves. You should also be looking to get movement speed on your boots. This is like super important if you're trying to be remotely efficient. And then outside of that, you're just looking for the basics, life, resistances, evasion, energy shield helps, attributes. You are going to need a lot of attributes. You're using strength, intelligence, and dexterity with this build, so attributes are kind of rough, so you should try and get those wherever you can. As you can see, I've got strength on my belt and plus 11 all on my amulet, just as an example. Following that, I'm going to go and quickly go over the passive tree. Similarly to the items, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. This is pretty basic, generic. I'm only like level 44, so there's not a lot to go over here. But we obviously start with this path right here. The first thing I do is grab Harness the Elements. This is really important in like an SSF or a league start position because the increased damage on bosses is going to come in super clutch, and you're going to be applying Ignite, Shock, Chill, and in some cases Freeze. But for the most part, it's just going to be Shock, Ignite, and Chill, so it's going to be an extra 45% increased damage, which is pretty hard to beat. After that, I moved further down. I grabbed these two nodes right here. Then I grabbed this because I wanted the 2% increased movement speed, and the increased attack damage is just nice on top. After that, I came and got Acceleration for more movement speed. And then after that, my next choice was to come back and grab these 5 nodes right here for a little bit of elemental resistance pen, and they were just like new nodes, so I kind of just wanted to get them just for fun, I guess. But they are decent. You're getting like 44% increased damage, as well as the elemental pen and increased area of effect for attacks. So this is pretty decent for bosses because around Act 2 and Act 3, bosses are going to start to have some elemental resistance. After getting that, I went here and grabbed all of the spear nodes, going this direction, up through here, grabbing both of these, and then coming back for this. And then after that, I started to get these, or I actually finished getting this accuracy cluster because I had fully swapped over to critical strike at that point. So I grabbed the accuracy cluster right here. This seems pretty good. It's a new cluster. And then now I'm working on filling out this one as well. I don't have, I'm not going to go into too much detail on what I'm going to do next, but after this, I do plan to eventually come over here and get Falcon Technique. I'm probably going to get some more accuracy nodes. I need to get a little bit more crit chance, so I'm probably going to come up here, grab this cluster, and, there's going to be other things I end up doing, but, I'll cover all that in the updated video coming out tomorrow or the day after that. And finally, I'm just going to quickly go over the rotation as it is now that I'm level 44 and into Act 3. This is basically what I was using for all of Act 3 as soon as I got Thunderous Sleep. If you're curious about the rotation prior to this point, like I said, I did include a bunch of notes for that on the Maxroll planner, so feel free to check that out. But once you get access to Thunderous Sleep, your rotation is going to change quite a bit, and it's like, honestly, Thunderous Sleep changes the entire build and makes it feel absolutely amazing. Prior to this, I can understand why some people were turned away from the Huntress, but now after getting it, I'm pretty confident that Huntress is going to end up being a pretty strong character in this league, especially once builds get more refined and we discover the endgame uniques and things of that nature. But anyways, for bosses, here is the rotation. So as the boss is like doing its little animation and coming out, I will throw 3 Storm Lances on the ground manually. As soon as the boss is available to be hit, I will Sniper's Mark them right here with F, and then I will Thunderous Leap to the 3 Storm Lances on the ground. And something nice about Thunderous Leap is it detonates those Storm Lances, instantly triggering them and making them do a ton of damage. What's going to happen there is the Sniper's Mark is likely going to get consumed because one of those hits, because there's like 100 hits happening at once, one of those is probably going to crit, consume Sniper's Mark, and this is going to give you a Frenzy Charge in case you didn't know. The first time you crit with Sniper's Mark active on the target, it'll do extra damage and it'll grant you a Frenzy Charge. After you Thunderous Leap to the Storm Lances and you get the Frenzy Charge, the next thing you're going to do is immediately press Barrage. Barrage is set up in such a way that, well, the reason why we're taking twofold is for this reason, but essentially Barrage, it's going to make your next attack repeat 2 times, and it can consume Frenzy Charges to make this happen even more. So if 1 Frenzy Charge is consumed, then it'll be 3 repeats. So you'll throw 4 Storm Lances. So in theory, after, well, not really in theory, I mean, this happens, but after you Thunderous Leap to the 3 Storm Lances, you will then Barrage. That's going to consume the Frenzy Charge. So now you're going to throw 4 Storm Lances. You're going to Sniper's Mark the boss again, and then you're going to Thunderous Leap again. After this, your Barrage is now on cooldown, so this is kind of like your opener. And while you wait for your Barrage to come back off cooldown, you're basically just throwing in Storm Lances. Well, not Thunderous Leaping, you're just throwing in Storm Lances and pairing that with Explosive Spear. So you can do, Storm Lance, Explosive Spear, Storm Lance. That's going to detonate all 3. Just an example. And every 1 to 2 times you do that, your barrage will be back up. When you have barrage, you can obviously barrage, sniper's mark, storm lance, and then thunderous leap. And that's pretty much the whole combo for bosses. You're going to be doing mostly lightning damage, but you're going to be doing a decent amount of fire damage as well with explosive spear. The boss is going to be ignited and shocked, and all you need at this point, since we're no longer using frost bomb, all you need at this point to chill them as well is just a little bit of flat cold damage. It doesn't have to be a lot. You need, like, I think you could basically do it with 1 flat cold damage, I assume. But I was able to get this by just using a flat cold damage rune on my weapon. So now I'm chilling, igniting, and shocking, getting good benefits from Harness the Elements. As for clearing through zones, I thought I would just show you guys really quick. Here I am in Act 1, Act 1 Cruel. I just got to Act 1 Cruel, so this is like the correct level for me. I'm level 44 in a level 45 zone. And this is pretty much what I would do. I'm just going to Thunderous Leap around through packs. I'll throw an Explosive Spear and a Thunderous Lance there. That's all going to die. Disengage, Thunderous Leap, Explosive Spear, Storm Lance, Explosive Spear, Storm Lance. All that's dead. And then, yeah, I'm basically just disengaging, Thunderous Leaping everywhere. And just like dropping stuff behind me in my wake, and everything just dies. Obviously, the build did not feel this good the entire playthrough. It does start to feel a lot better once you have access to Thunderous Leap. But once you do have it, the build just takes off, and it starts to feel amazing. Bosses, I mean, everything is pretty good. I'll go do Beira really quick to just showcase it. And yeah, I didn't mention it too much throughout the guide so far, but Lightning Spear is actually decent. Like, when I'm feeling lazy and I don't feel like using Explosive Shot and Storm Lance, just running around spamming Lightning Spear, I mean, it feels basically the same, if not better, than Lightning Arrow on Deadeye. One little caveat here I will say, and I didn't mention this before, but Huntress feels really bad without attack speed. So you'll notice in the passive tree, there's a lot of attack speed nodes taken. As you start to get attack speed, the class feels way better. But at first, you have like actually negative attack speed, and you're throwing 1 lightning spear like every full second, and it feels terrible. Okay, so Storm Lance, Storm Lance, Storm Lance, Sniper's Mark. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I completely butchered my combo. Like, it's not even funny how bad that combo was, but the boss still kind of melted. It's not like the quickest boss kill ever, but considering I'm in league start gear, no trading, I'd say it's pretty decent. And especially considering people are like writing off the Huntress as being bad. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm having a blast. It's super fun. It's kind of rough. You have to get through the beginning part, the beginning acts, but after that, it's going to start to pick up, and I think you will not regret it. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the video there. It was a long stream today. I'll be streaming again tomorrow. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by, ask them in the chat. Try to get back to all of the questions whenever I have the opportunity. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and good luck on your league start. Take it easy, chefs.
Let's see you survive this. The end of the world is nigh. I've been preparing for you for years. Existence is merely energy. Inconceivable. You will pay for this! Reverse the polarity! You think you can run?
Nice. Not bad, not bad.
Not now!
And last but not least, take it easy, chefs.
Watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.